How long does it take for retatrutide to suppress appetite? Now, it's a great question because in the clinical data, and more is coming in, many people start retatrutide at the 2 milligram weekly starting dose, and they expect to have this magical reduction of appetite. And what I found in some of the forums and seeing in my clinical observation, that some people actually have an increase in their appetite, especially if you're someone who's already fit, you're just looking for a little body composition change, maybe you've had a little bit of insulin resistance creeping up. Sometimes that appetite suppression is not what you expect it to be, and in some cases it may actually make things worse. But stick with me here, because in this video what we're going to do is I'm going to show you that there's no actual clinical timeline for when appetite suppression begins, but we're going to talk about the mechanism behind retatrutide, this triple agonist. You're working on the GLP-1 pathway, the GIP, and glucagon, and it's a phenomenal molecule, and I'm very excited to see the new studies coming out. Like the TRIUMPH-1 studies came out in May of 2026, just last month. Holy smokes, it did not disappoint. I'm Regan Archibald. I'm the founder of Ageless Future. We are looking to help you live your best life because you focus and prioritize your health. We do that with a team of clinicians who are compassionate and caring, and they really want to look at data from your labs. So for those of you who want to go deeper and find out what peptides are best for you and get them from a 503A compounding pharmacy, all you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com, set up a call with one of our providers, get your blood labs ran, and we'll take it from there. Let's talk about retatrutide. So it's this cool triple agonist. It's building muscle mass. In some cases, it suppresses the appetite because the GLP-1, it turns off that hunger signal. But remember, the GLP-1 that you find in retatrutide is weaker than what you'd find in semaglutide by about 8 times, and it's about 5 times weaker than the GLP-1 signal that you'd find in tirzepatide. And so the interesting thing that you'll see is that some of the weight loss, because it is definitely outperforming semaglutide, tirzepatide for sure outperforming that, but even in the TRIUMPH-1 studies, retatrutide at its lowest dose outperformed semaglutide at the highest dose. And semaglutide is going to be just a straight GLP-1 or glucagon-like peptide, and you're going to see a massive decrease and suppression in appetite. But retatrutide, because it's signaling less on that pathway and more on the GIP, almost 8 times more than tirzepatide on the GIP, and then you've got glucagon stacked in there, like there's no telling what's going to happen to your appetite. But many people, starting on 1 milligram weekly dose or 0.5 is, I think that's a much smarter pathway to go on, because you can always go more, but you can't decrease it once it's injected. But what we're finding is there's just a whole variety of ways that people respond to this. Some people have a dramatic appetite increase for about 1 to 2 weeks after they've started. Some people have a dramatic decrease. What we're finding is once you get to about 2 to 4 milligram weekly doses, that's when you start seeing the most stable kind of appetite suppression, so that people can really start losing weight and getting on top of that food noise. But if you're just looking for a peptide that's turn off the food chatter, semaglutide, tirzepatide might be a more predictable route. But as far as what the data shows for systemic benefits, lean muscle mass preservation, nothing quite like retatrutide that I've seen. Okay, so here's a study, Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology in 2022. This is where they're looking at retatrutide back in the day, 2022, sounds like forever ago, but this is how long this drug's been studied, for about 4 years now. So 52 participants receiving retatrutide, 15 got placebo. In the first human phase 1 clinical trial, retatrutide, it significantly increased overall VAS scores, indicating decreased appetite, increased fullness versus placebo. And it was visible within 4 days of the dosing. So once again, this is in the clinical trial. Weight loss was also significant versus placebo at the 3 highest single doses, and it was maintained up to day 43 after a single injection, consistent with that 7-day half-life. 4 days to the first measurable appetite signal, but that was at the 2 milligram weekly starting dose. And so the titration entry point, what they would call subtherapeutic. For many of you, that's going to be just fine. You probably would not want to exceed that. Week 1 and 2 are, where the tolerability phase, so like how well do you tolerate this? The phase 2 data is pretty interesting because now if you look at the full timeline, this was published in the New England Journal of Medicine 2023, was the Triumph phase 2 obesity trial, 338 adults across 7 different dosing and timing arms. And then the appetite suppression became much clearer at that 4 milligrams. This is where the significant reduction, people's desire for sweet foods, it hit by week 4 to 14. Now this was the obesity trial, so granted these people aren't eating super healthy, and I almost promise that the majority of you watching this have already got lifestyle dialed in, you got the fitness protocol, you're working on your age reversal. So these people, they noticed that they had significant reductions between weeks 4 and week 14. There's a 19.5% improvement on the hunger score versus the placebo. And then what they found at 8 milligrams, that's when the real reduction started to kick in. And that was where they found by week 8, massive hunger reductions reached approximately 15 to 16 points versus placebo by week 24. And so, if you think of the mechanism behind this, the GLP-1 receptor activation, it's an agonist, so you're going to get more GLP-1 activity. It slows gastric emptying. That's, where your food stays in your stomach longer. And then it produces early signs of satiety, but the downside is you can also get a little bit of nausea. For those of you who are looking for appetite suppression, and when Retatrutide is available, you'll start to see that there's ways that you can circumvent this by going slower, just titrating up. Don't jump right into the full, 4 milligram dosing, or even the 8 milligram dosing, which is what a lot of people run into, because you can have some pretty significant side effects. What they found is that if you have this delay in gastric emptying, we're also seeing that there's a substantial risk of your body not denaturing the proteins properly. You don't have enough stomach acids. You can get some acid reflux. The other thing that you'll notice is you can also have this inability to fully digest the food and end up with constipation. And there's some interesting studies on that too. So if you're just looking for appetite suppression, one of the things that really helps from a lifestyle perspective is just mapping out the food that you're going to eat throughout the course of the day and being very selective. If you are a woman especially, you want to get some protein first thing in the morning, because proteins are these signals that tell your thyroid and tell your body that there's energy availability. And once you have that energy availability, then you'll have better satiation throughout the day. You go do your workout. We have the 30-30 exercise protocol, 30 minutes in the morning, exercise. High intensity, and it could be longer than 30 minutes, but ideally 30-30, and if you can do it outside, even better. So you get protein before the workout, you have sustained energy through the workout, and then protein after, 20 to 30 grams. And then you want to make sure you're eating a little bit of protein between breakfast and lunch. Eat protein for lunch, and then between lunch and dinner, more protein, and then protein for dinner. So you roughly are getting 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. And then don't forget, at night, go for a walk. And every time you eat, if you can get your body moving, it's a great way of getting glucose into the muscle instead of the fat cell. Clinical studies show is that the highest dosing, 12 milligrams, with this triagonist, you're activating glucagon, the GIP, and the GLP-1, there's full appetite suppression. And this is where it becomes really important. If you do end up getting on that dose, you want to make sure that you're getting the right foods in, because if you're not eating enough protein, now while the data shows that even at the highest dose, there is some lean muscle preservation, but you just don't want to risk it, because the 3 organs that we want you to protect, your muscle, your heart, and your brain. If you're entering into any kind of dosing above like that 8 milligrams weekly, this is where some of the side effects show up. So just don't think about appetite suppression as like the primary goal. Think, feed my body with the right nutrients, getting the right proteins, lots of leafy greens, lots of vegetables. Your cruciferous vegetables are your way to go, because that's where you can mitigate a lot of these side effects from having this slowing of your gastric emptying. If you can get the right fibers in, that creates some structural fullness in your gut, and you'll be able to get leaned out, but you'll also also be able to stay full and won't have to worry so much about that food chatter. So for those of you who are like, man, I really want to find out what's going on in my blood labs. I don't want to play guessing games anymore. I don't want to just like mess around with research use only peptides and doing things that aren't under proper medical supervision. We'll go to agelessfuture.com, meet with our team, see if you're a good fit for one of our programs, and promise you that we give it our best. We have some of the most sophisticated but safe medical protocols based on your blood labs. We do stool testing, genetics, all the things that really matter for somebody who cares about their health. So just go to agelessfuture.com. I'm Regan Archibald. Really appreciate being on this channel. See you on the next video.